Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in to the 28-day Acts Challenge. We're reading through the book of Acts, and the reason we're reading through the book of Acts is that the book of Acts tells us what the first church looked like. It gives us a picture of what the church should look like, who we should be, and how the church should function in the world today. I think for those of us that call us Christians, that is really important. And so today we're in day 20, chapter 20 of the book of Acts. And in this chapter, Paul is wiped out. He's been stretched thin. I made a list of all the things he's been up to. He's burning the candle at both ends. It says he sails to Macedonia, and from there he sails to Greece. Then he heads to Syria. There in Syria, he finds out there's a plot against him. People want to kill him, and so he V-lines for Macedonia again. There, when he's finally together with his other disciples, he teaches late into the evening. It was past midnight, and guess what happens? He goes teaching so long that a man falls asleep. He's sitting in a window, and he falls asleep, falls out of the window, and dies. He brings that man back to life somehow, and then he heads to Jerusalem for Pentecost. He's strung out, he's worn out, he's tired, he has had enough. Have you ever been there? You know you have. We've all been there. If you're a parent and you're trying to manage kids, I know I've been there. Maybe you've had that moment where you say, if I have to go to one more dance recital, I'm going to pull my hair out. If I have to go to one more tournament, if my kids spill one more glass of milk, I'm going to go crazy. Or how about this one at work? If the boss gives me one more project that needs to be done by tomorrow, I'm done. I'm finished. I've had it. Or maybe it's your family. You're sick and tired of the ways your family gets under your skin, the ways they know how to push every last one of your buttons. You see, that's where Paul was. He was strung out. He was worn out. He was exhausted. He had had enough. You see, here's what I know about all of us. We've all been there. Sometimes we all feel as though we're ready to give up. And what I love about the book of Acts is it is the church that reminds Paul of Jesus' message of love. That message that while we were still sinners, while we all fall short, that we have a God who came to save us, that nothing will ever separate us from God's love that's found in Jesus Christ. You know, you've read chapter 20. Paul battled all kinds of things. He was filled with tears. He was overwhelmed by opposition. He experienced loneliness and weariness. He'd even been thrown in jail, people. And yet he found hope in the gospel. I love this passage. Paul says, I do not count my life of any value to myself, if only I may finish my course in the ministry that I receive from the Lord Jesus to testify to the good news of God's grace. That verse is in chapter 20, verse 24. It reminds us that whatever we face, we have a God who is there for us, come whatever might be. So a couple of questions for you today as you ponder this chapter 20. What does this passage teach us about God? Especially in those moments when we feel strung out, we feel worn out, we've been burning the candle at both ends for far too long. And then secondly, Paul says in verse 24 that he counts his life as nothing except to finish the mission God has given him. Can you say that in your life? What calling has God put on your life? Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you'll tune back in so that you can dig in to the next chapter, chapter 21.